Good evening, everybody. So this is our first time Beats and Politics Live edition. So I'm pretty excited about it. It's going to be an interesting venture, I have to say myself. My name's Sarahia Benn. I'm the People's Champ, and we're about to push some heat through the streets. So please like our Facebook. We also have several other media on social media. So just like it all, please, please, please. It's also sponsored by this lovely hotel, RL. It is a little spot of heaven. And if you could find that in the city, that's a good thing. And SMB Music Group is also sponsoring it. Today's topics will be the upcoming Baltimore election, which is very important. And it's starting to look like the presidential election because it's like, 48 targets or whatever. We're going to also talk about unions. We're going to talk about activism, Amber Geiger verdict. And we're going to talk about some other pop culture as we go on. So first thing, I just want to introduce the lovely man next to me, Mr. Jason McLaurin. I think his name is Mark J. McLaurin. But
That's right.
But you see, I only call him Jason. I don't know what's up.
Everyone calls me Jason. My mom even calls me Mark Jason, so either one will fit.
That's good. So I'm going to give a little bit of understanding who he is. He's the director of the Political and Legislative Affairs for the SEIU Union. That's Service Employees International Union, the largest and fastest growing labor union in the country. Mark has been an advocate and activist for working class people for over 20 years, from serving as a landlord-tenant counselor at Baltimore Neighborhoods Incorporated, while in college serving in the 7th Congressional Director for United States Senator Barbara A. Mikulski, and public policy director for Public Justice Center. A common thread is a core of commitment, fashioning strategies to make life easier for Baltimore's working class families. He's eager to join us here, and I'm sure he's been eager to do all the things that he has been doing. He also has chairs the Baltimore Police Commission LGBTQ Advisory Commission and serves as the Policy Committee of Gender Rights Maryland. So now I introduce my friend, Jason McLaurin.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. I am so excited to be here and so honored that you asked me to be here. I'm looking forward to chopping it up.
That's right. I mean, we chop it up on Facebook all the time.
Indeed.
And you are a trip. I ain't gonna lie, you a trip. You be pissing some people off.
Me?
Yeah, little old you.
I'll have you know I was voted America's Sweetheart 3 years running, so.
Well, let's get right into some good stuff. First thing, you're in the unions, and I kind of want a little understanding of the power structure, how they work, and if there isn't one that exists in your employment, say if you work at a big place and you want to start it, how would you go about doing that?
Sure. So unions, I mean, obviously unions have been around since the beginning of time. It's basically workers banding together to have a say in the workplace. And you do that through unions. And so, like, I work for the Service Employees International Union, the largest union in the country. And I represent workers in the public school system. I represent home-based child care providers. I represent adjunct faculty at every single college in D.C. except for Catholic University, which is to my everlasting shame because that's my alma mater. And in Maryland colleges, Micah, Maryland Institute College of Art, McDaniel College, Goucher College. We represent the adjunct faculty there. We also represent workers in developmental disability group home workers. So I have a pretty motley crew of workers who belong to our union. But basically, belonging to a union is just a recognition that, you know, our overarching ethos at SEIU is stronger together. You know, and so the kind of founding rationale behind unions is that, quite frankly, there's an unequal power dynamic in just about any workplace between a boss and the employers. If you're a problem, I'll get rid of you and I'll have somebody else come in. If I belong to a union, you've got a whole nother problem because you can't mistreat an individual worker that belongs to the union because the union is negotiating on behalf of all the workers. And so,
wow. That's pretty powerful. I mean, my nephew, believe it or not, he's in the union. I forget which one he's in. I'm sorry, it fails me. But he was actually, believe it or not, he got in it because he was in federal prison. And had he not been able to be guided through a series of programs and be in a halfway house, he would have never, and I know he probably doesn't want me to say this, but anyway, I did. But he's doing great right now. He's making more money than me. He's making $70 an hour, so excuse me.
Can I get a $10?
Yes, I want $10.
Call me nephew.
So I was wondering, is there right? You see what I'm saying? He's a card. So do they have those type of programs here in Maryland? Because the concern that I've seen, especially in Baltimore City, is that it seems like there is a lot of union workers that come in here, but they're from West Virginia. They're not necessarily from Maryland. And we have a whole bunch of people in Baltimore that would love to be employed that are underemployed and unemployed. So
sure. Well, so I mean, I think when you think of out-of-state union members, you're talking about the buildings and construction trades. Like a lot of those folks kind of come in on a job. They may belong to the carpenters or to the IBW, the electrical workers, or the plumbers or the steam fitters, and they live in West Virginia, and they come in, do a contract job, and go out. But all of my members live in, well, 90% of my members live in Maryland. I think that probably 95% of SEIU members that are employed in Maryland live in Maryland because, like 1199, our sister union, they represent the workers at Johns Hopkins Hospital and at nursing homes across the city. My sister union, SEIU 32BJ, they represent building and janitorial services at buildings throughout the city. So, we are home-based, but, folks ask all the time, why would SEIU get so involved in death penalty repeal? Why would SEIU get so involved in marriage equality? Why would SEIU get so involved in a whole bunch of other initiatives? And my answer is always that because we as a union are concerned with more than just our workers' step increases and their own parochial kind of need to get paid, although that's important too. Yes. And for them to be treated in the workplace is important too. But absolutely, to the extent that the criminal justice system disproportionately impacts young black men, those young black men are the kids of my members. You know what I mean? And so I have a responsibility to be active and try to use the power of the union to be impactful on all issues that impact them, both in the workplace and outside of the workplace. And I think to the extent that we are able to spread that message to unions, they become more and more relevant. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. One last question about the unions. A lot of minority companies, they're small, and sometimes they don't even have enough members to probably create a union. But say if they do, or if they're able to, because I noticed there was a contractor from DC that wanted to do something down here, and he had like about 100 employees. How would they go about it, or is it not a good thing, or is there sometimes that a union's not good for a business?
You will never get a union political director to tell you that a union is not good for a business. I don't care what business it is.
Amen.
But I genuinely believe that, we represent workers at DC nonprofits like Media Matters and Planned Parenthood and Ralph Nader's organization, Public Citizen, and a whole group of those. And so we have workplaces that are small as, 8 or 10 workers. Then we have workplaces that are like Montgomery County Public Schools, which have 10,000 workers. So I would suggest that anyone that's interested in forming a union, get in touch with one of the unions that are here, whether it's SEIU. You can call me, I'll give you my information. But not just me. There are folks around here that are doing the work. There's United Food and Commercial Workers, UFCW. There's Unite Here that represents all the folks at Horseshoe Casino and at some of the hotels around the city. And so it really depends on what industry that you're in as to what union you normally would belong to, because we don't step on each other's toes. I'm not going to go after a hotel because Unite Here represents hotels.
That's right. That's right. What about the musicians union? I know there is one. Because I'm a musician, and I used to be, believe it or not, I used to be a part of the union when I lived in L.A. But I came out here, and I'll be honest with you. Womp womp. So I don't know. I know that
I'm trying to remember. I know that recently the BSO folks, when that happened, like
I was glad for them.
Yes, but they formed a union. You know what I mean? And what happened there was that instead of getting rid of individual players, the union was able to stand in and advocate not only within the workplace, but the power of the union is that we amass, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, we amass political power that we then expend on our members' behalf. So when the union calls Maggie McIntosh and says, you got to help these folks,
she better.
When the union calls, Mayor Jack Young or whoever else, not Jack Young, but
I know.
somebody else, when the union calls an effective politician and wants their help, I'd like to think that I get my calls returned before the average one of my members does, and that's because, quite frankly, of the amassed power of my membership. I remind every politician, when I write you a check out of our treasury, that's money that my workers gave me from scrubbing toilets and from changing bedpans, and so I hold you responsible for that. But from workers coming together and giving that.
I think your cord. Just push the cord up because it just sounds like it kind of. There you go.
Oh,
there you go. In fact, I'll take the bad mic. You take the good one.
No. So I said that to say, belonging to a union not only increases your power, I would argue, within the workplace, but outside of the workplace, because we have, when I make a call to Jack Young or Brandon Scott or Shannon Sneed or anyone else, I get a call back, not because I'm so fabulous, although I think I'm kind of
fab. Oh, you're very fabulous. I'm sorry. Don't say you're not.
Stop. But not because of who I am, but because they recognize that at the drop of a hat, I can write a $6,000 check and I can have 50 people on the doors next Saturday. You know what I mean? And so that's all the collective power.
We need to create a door knocking union. Wow, I like that. I ain't even going to lie. So now we're going to move into, and by the way, I learned some valuable information from hearing from you, even though, believe it or not, my uncle was in the union when they had Bethlehem Steel, and they used to have Peach Bottom, which was a reactor up in Pennsylvania. So
that's the untold story, honestly, is that unions built the black middle class. Make no mistake about it. The Social Security Administration, folks have sent their kids to college as AFG members, and AFG stepped in at Social Security and made sure all those GS4, GS6, GS8, GS10 going all the way up, those are folks that are in unions, and so.
And I agree with you. So, unfortunately, we need to probably do a little bit more, and we have to get our legislators on that board. But if we can't get them on the board, what are we going to do? We're going to get new ones.
Get them out.
We're going to get them out. So, we're now going to talk about Baltimore City's mayoral race, which, by the way, is... Wait a sec. Ding, 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 ding. We have in the ring at a dripping wet 160 pounds, Brandon M. Scott. And we have Stokey Kennedy, the anti, whatever. So, I mean, that's what it seems like. It seems like it is like a blowout, like a battle royale or something here. I mean, so let me just list some of the declared candidates. Now, the funny thing is that a lot of people are campaigning, but they're really not even declared. So we got Carmichael Stokey Kennedy, who's an anti-violence activist and mediator. Lou Catelli, who's the unofficial mayor of Hamden.
Next,
because I don't know who he is. Lynn Sherwood Harris, former president of Sandtown Winchester Improvement Association. Ralph E. Johnson Jr., author. James Hughes Jones II, 2018 Democratic gubernatorial candidate. You see, I can't read without my glass. I don't even know why I'm playing like this, because I can't see.
All right, man.
And let's see here. Dante Swinton, environmental justice researcher and community organizer. Thiru Vignaraja, he ran in the city the last time. Yes, he's not Ivan, is he? Okay, okay. I ain't gonna give no shots. Ricky Vaughn, who ran in the U.S. Senate as a U.S. Senate candidate, and Frederick Ware Newsom, who is a perennial candidate. Do you know what perennial means?
Perennial is they run every single time and never win.
Yeah. I know a few in Harford County. Anyway, and then we have a whole bunch of potential candidates, which I'm not going to list off because, truth be told, I want you to just say what you think. But there are some Republican candidates. Catalina Bird, who I do know. I do know, and so she's Baltimore. I mean, it is what it is.
I love
William
her. She's
G.
got
Hurd,
about as much shot as I do, and I'm not running. But
right. I mean, when you're talking about votes registered, we're talking about in a city where there's 10 Democrats for every one. Sort of like Harford County in certain areas, right? And then Shannon Wright, who's a former pastor, but she also has been on a Roland show, Martin show, or is it Martin? Yeah, something
Martin.
like that. I'd be thinking crazy stuff. And then people who declined. We had Ben Jealous. So what do you think about that? Yeah, I'm gonna slip it to you.
Ben is a dear friend of mine, and I think that Ben rightly made the calculation that this was not his year, and I think Okay. I think that was a smart decision. That
he was smart. Yeah, I kind of think so, because when you go through a campaign, because I've actually ran a campaign, and I can just tell you for myself, it is very grueling.
Absolutely.
And the truth is, even in October 2019, I still feel like I'm in a campaign.
Yes.
I'm still running.
Yep.
I'm still dealing with enemies and all this other crazy stuff. And I'm like, wait a sec. It's not supposed to be that way. So I agree. I think he does need to take a break. And then I think Shannon Sneed, isn't she running for president?
City council president, yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think of her chances?
I like Shannon. I mean, I think that she is, she's a progressive candidate. Look, full disclosure, I'm not going to act like I'm unbiased when it comes to Shannon. SEIU 500 was the one union that stood with Shannon back in 2011 when she ran against Warren Branch, and nobody thought she could win. We got within 40 votes of throwing out the incumbent, and she turned around and ran a write-in campaign. Unheard of. A write-in campaign in this city. And she came within 38 votes of beating him in the general election on a write-in campaign. That's when I knew she was special. So she came back in 2016 and won, and so I've had a need for Sneed for 10 years, so I'm not going to pretend to be unbiased, but I also think that she has a lot to recommend her. I think that there's a good chance that she's going to be the only woman in the race. I think that there's a good chance that she's going to be the only, this city is a parochial city, East Side, West Side. She's the only East Side candidate in the race against two male West Siders. I think she's going to have a lot of support from progressive organizations and for unions. Look, it's anybody's game. If Nick Mosby gets in, he's got the Mosby name, and I certainly don't detract from anything that Nick has done. Nick has also been a champion on a lot of issues that are important to us.
So Nick is in the race now.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, he went down from delegate. They cleaning house out of there. Wasn't he a delegate?
Well, yeah, he's a delegate now, but it's if you're in state office, it's a free shot to run for city office because
that's true.
You can keep your seat because you don't have to do that until 2022. So why not run for the city council president?
That's true, and I believe that the power is probably more concentrated here, and it's probably more personal to him. Nothing against Annapolis, but Annapolis got a lot of Well,
I mean, the difference between being a city council president, there's only one city council president,
That's
and
true.
being one of 12 or 14 delegates in Baltimore City, where you got to go to Annapolis and ask the speaker if you're allowed to go to the bathroom. I would run for city council president too. I ain't mad at him.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that there's certain things that are good and bad about the whole situation. So far as the ones that are in the race for mayor, who do you think has the best chance of winning? It's not about who you. Now, don't get me wrong. You tell me who you favor, but you can also tell me who you really think has a chance, because I've actually talked to some of the candidates. I talked to Dante Swinton, and I've kind of given him some advice. I told him, he has to be a little bit more serious about it, because, I mean, if you're going to run as a progressive candidate, and this is the problem with progressive candidates, let's just be real. Right. The problem is we come in, we want to be, we walk to a different drum, right? Yep. But the problem is we don't come looking like we belong there. Yeah. We look like we're in the 1960s, ready to be a flower power child. And I'm not saying that to be mean. Right. And I think I have that problem because I got hobo issues too. You know what I'm saying? But, hey, it is what it is. So I gave him some pointers because I want to see him give his best chance, because he probably is perhaps the only progressive that's running. Now, I don't know if he's going to win, but you see, he didn't told you.
Well, you honestly, in a citywide race, and as much as I hate to say this, because look, I'm an activist, I'm from the streets, I'm all about people power, but if you can't raise $500,000, you're not going to be the next mayor of this city.
Yes.
That's just the truth. Because
could you say that again?
Because
this is going to help candidates that are running.
If you, Dante, Ralph, all, I'm talking to you. I love you dearly. You may want to look at Central Committee or perhaps a delegates race in 2022. If you cannot show me where you can raise $500,000, you are not going to be the next mayor of this city. And I don't say that with any zeal or glee. I don't think it should be about money. But at the end of the day, you've got a city where, you know, there's those of us who pay attention to politics and are really interested in politics, and we follow the candidates and will come to a candidates forum, but that's like 5% of us. The other 95% of us are too busy, you know, taking care of our kids, going to work, going home. And so if you can't get in my mailbox and you can't get on my TV and you don't have a field campaign, you're not going to be elected mayor. It's just the truth. So, you know, like I'm glad that folks are running, and hopefully they bring issues to the fore that they make the front runners address. But the next mayor of this city is going to be one of 5 people.
Okay. One.
Jack Young.
Jack Young. He's not in the race yet.
Yeah, he will be.
But slick Jack Young with the jab, right?
Yeah.
Because he has our kids at, what is it, the Royal Farms?
Yeah, I don't think he has a jab left anymore. Yeah. But okay. Jack Young, Brandon Scott.
Okay.
T.J. Smith.
T.J. Smith, okay.
I'm going to zing one on you. Senator Mary Washington.
Whoa. You didn't call my senator out now. You don't be talking about my senator like that now.
What?
I'm just saying. Is she really going to come back?
She is.
Because I know a lot of people want her to. You know
yes,
what I mean?
I think she is very strongly considering it.
Wow.
And I think she would, quite frankly, be a game changer in many respects.
She would.
Yeah. And the fifth one is, it's still Baltimore. You can't leave out Sheila Ann Dixon.
Ooh,
it's going to be one of those 5s. You heard it here first.
That's right.
One of those 5 will be the next mayor of this city.
And I agree. Do you think that if Sheila gets in, she's the front runner?
No.
No? You don't? Mm-mm.
No. Sheila's problem is that she has a certain block of voters that will march through snow, sleet, hail, and rain for her. Mm-hmm. And that's maybe 25%.
Okay.
And then she's probably got 70% of the city that wouldn't vote for her if she was running against Donald Trump.
Wow.
You know, and so the context here, though, is that in many respects, Sheila would have had a better chance if what had happened to Catherine Pugh had not happened to Catherine Pugh. But this city, after having endured the trauma of an ethically challenged mayor having to resign, the city is not going to turn its eyes to the last person who they had to throw out for corruption. Right. It's the wrong context for her. But of course, you know, I mean, look, I like Sheila personally, and she has suffered from many things in her life, but a low self-esteem or a low opinion of herself has never been one of them. And so she'll probably run again because she thinks, you know, she's got folks that love her, and I care for her personally, but I
mean, 30% is a hard base. I mean, you talked about 5 people. She got 30%. Sounds like a win to me almost. Well, I mean, and I say almost because you're right. You can't bank on everybody.
What's going to happen is that this is the same thing that happened 4 years ago, is that all these people run, and then the city starts looking around and realizing, if we don't center on one candidate, Sheila's going to win. Okay? So everyone, that's how Catherine, I mean, look, I was chief strategist for Catherine Pugh's campaign 4 years ago.
Wow.
God forgive me.
I got to forgive you, Jason. I'm just joking. Guess what?
She honestly, she's
a good
family. She's been a family friend. She came to my high school graduation. She was my mother's board chair of a nonprofit. Like, I've known her for probably 30 years, and so I don't excuse anything she does. But one thing I will say is that woman loved this city.
She did.
And she was, she's wrong as 2 left shoes for whatever. I wasn't involved in any of that. But she is someone that loves this city, and so I'm proud of the work that I did to elect her. But I'll tell you what happened in the last month or so. All of Embry's voters, all of Warnock's voters, all of Nick Mosby's voters, all the voters who were going to vote for anyone else looked around and said, Catherine's the only one that can stop Sheila.
Right.
And so then they went with Catherine, and that's how she won. That'll happen to Sheila again. She doesn't realize it. But, if it looks like Sheila's going to win folks will start peeling off of the other ones and go to the person that they think.
They won't do a Missouri where they just stay in the race and don't care and whatever.
Well, they stay in the race, but their vote totals. I mean, Elizabeth Embry was devastated. She was sure she was second or third. She was fourth, because what happened was her voters went to the polls and said, a vote for Elizabeth Embry is a vote for Sheila Dixon. Basically. And I'm not willing to elect Sheila Dixon, so I'll go with Pugh.
Right. And by the way, I did like Catherine Pugh. We were actually in the process of doing a census PSA. So I actually, to be honest with you, I was actually kind of disheartened some of the things that came out. I'm still going to be doing some with the Deltas, but because she is a Delta, by the way.
My mom's a Delta.
Oh, really? Yeah. So, the thing about it, I look at it this way. People do make mistakes, and one thing I will say that was good about her, I don't care what anybody says, she was about Baltimore in the sense of you had to live here. Yes. And she didn't believe that you could just come in here and do any old thing that you wanted to do and then leave this area and take all the resources. So if anything, that people should learn that from her. If we learn nothing else, learn that from her. And I hope Godspeed, peace and blessings to her, because a lot of people, we joke on the internet. Let's be real. We cut people to shreds on the internet. I mean, we go in on the internet, and then, but these are people, and they do have feelings. And so, I'm not saying I'm giving her a pity party, but anybody else, even in the situation in the district that I ran in, I got the M-word delegate. I know.
Marianne.
Yeah. She's still smiling. Nothing's changed for her because in her mind she didn't get penalized. She should have gotten penalized in the same manner of Pugh and some of the other ones. Gaines that just resigned. I mean, and that one was a shocker for me out of the blue.
I didn't see that coming at all.
Yeah, I didn't see that as well.
But see, she did some. I mean, for me at least, I differentiate. Maybe I shouldn't, but I differentiate between like bribery, like you were doing something underhanded. Right. Tawana just did something stupid. She had a campaign account that she was, buying herself stuff out of. But it wasn't like nobody snuck her, $10,000 in a paper bag under a toilet like Will Campos or Michael Vaughn in Prince George's County. Oops. It wasn't that. Oh, did I do that? Well, he's in jail. He can't get me down. But
kick him in the knees.
That's right. Stick him and move.
That's right.
But so I, Tawana, it's sad that happened to her and look, I mean, one thing I say is, as much as I joke and as irreverent as I am because I'm always around these elected officials, I am always uber cognizant that these are human beings. I have to tell you, Catherine Elizabeth Pugh, her lifelong dream was to be the mayor of this city.
Really?
I mean, she ran for it once before, but since I was in high school, all Catherine ever wanted to be was mayor. She ran for delegate. She was on the city council. But she only ever wanted to be mayor. And so to see her finally achieve her dream and to have it, through mostly her own fault, take away from her, is just on a personal level. Right. It's heartbreaking.
But
whether you think she was good or bad, right or wrong, it really is just difficult as a human being to see another human being finally achieve what they had worked.
That's correct.
Mean, people forget because she runs marathons. Catherine Pugh is 70 years old. You know what I mean? She worked all her life to get to this one place, and she got there, and it slipped through her fingers.
And unfortunately, there was people who were higher than her that are still in office. I want to say the M&M crew. Everybody knows who the M&M crew is at the state level. They're still operating. Trust me, they the ones that are doing a whole lot of stuff. That's why the one went out fast, and the other one is about to go out. Well, oh well. So I got a couple little fast hits. I don't know if you even know about these pop culture facts. This is completely different. I know it. It's just to test what you know.
Keep me on my feet.
I know, keep you on your feet. So Isaiah Washington, the black actor.
Yes.
He's a Trumper. And you know what? The funny thing about black Trumpers, I got a couple more on my page, and they love to troll my page, and I love to talk trash back at them. But long story short, he just recently said that he's done more work than Harriet Tubman.
I saw that.
What's going on with this dude, man?
Can you imagine?
What the heck is going on? Mother Moses lived to 91, man. This dude has done what, man? Has he even created an actor? Has he even, mentored anybody? What has he done?
No. Well, the kind of overwhelming cognitive dissonance that has to be in your brain to be an African-American man who supports Donald Trump. I think you could believe anything. I honestly believe that if you could peel his scalp back, he probably does believe deep down that he's done more for black folks than Harriet Tubman. But he's, he's not well. And I don't like to pick on sick folks, but he is not well.
Let's pick on another one.
Yes.
The Kardashians, Kanye West. Hallelujah.
Here's another sick one.
He got upset.
And Jamal Bryant.
He got upset because he had his church, right? A couple weeks ago.
He was at Jamal Bryant's church that was from here.
Really?
This is the other. Now let me tell you about that. Now pop culture, I got your pop culture. Now mind you, Jamal Bryant, who was pastor of a huge church up here, he's the son of the AME Bishop John Bryant. Was like the heir apparent to black royalty in this city in many respects. Had a church up here. He got recruited to go down and take over the mega church that was run by a man by the name of Reverend Eddie Long. Eddie Long. Okay?
Mr. Muscles.
Yes. Now, Eddie Long, who died in sickness and in shame because he was a sexual predator, that even though he was married, he was sleeping with all the boys in the church.
Big time.
And so, but
while preaching hell and fire from that pulpit, right. So hard, attacking
the LGBT community every chance he got, but then going home and messing with the boys with the altos on the youth choir.
Yes,
paying
off settlements.
But they haven't. This is what we as and this is. A black folks conversation, I understand that, but we as black folks, we have got to get better. We have a way of overlooking things. I mean, I was on Facebook arguing with this woman who said, well, nobody can judge Eddie Long, and nobody's been in where he, and I said, what if that was your kid? Right. We have this way but we've been doing this in our families forever. The uncle was touching her for years and years, and you just acted like, you didn't see it or you didn't. And when it's your pastor, for Christ's sake, I mean, this guy's got a mega church with 2 helicopters.
Yeah.
You've got 70-year-old women on Social Security tithing 10% every month to this guy who's diddling kids. Like all in the name of God. I don't want. You can keep that God. I don't want any of that. So I said that to say, Jamal went down there, took over the church, and then Kanye comes to service, which is supposed to be this big deal. But now Kanye, who is a multi-millionaire, shows up to church, and I mean, look, I'm no fashion maven, but he had on the dirtiest, greasiest sweatpants in the world, like in church, really. There's a certain amount of respect, that. There are some churches that, are come as you are, but New Birth is not one of them.
It's definitely not. That's
the level of disrespect.
You got your stuff, tailored and everything. Yes. You come in like Rolls Royces, and even if you're renting and leasing that stuff, man.
Jamal Bryant's pants be so tight if he sneezed, he'd pass out.
What about the ATM in the back of the church?
Yeah, absolutely.
He went down there. Now he wants to be a star. I think Jamal Bryant was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
You think he's messing with the girl that's on the Real Housewives of the Potomac?
No, that's his wife.
Oh, that's his wife.
That's how she got on there in the first place.
Oh, darn!
This is the other thing. He married her, and he was screwing everything that moved, and had 3 or 4 kids on her with members of his church, which everyone's supposed to overlook because God is good.
That's right. All the time.
And so then she's only cast as the Real Housewives of Potomac because she was married to him. Nobody knew who the hell she was.
I still don't.
Now he's dating her again. Now they're dating again. They're reunited. This is
after a baby, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, this is baby number, 3 or 4. Like they have 2, but Jamal's got 3 or 4 kids running around Baltimore, and he's got one in California that he's been sued for not paying child support on. I mean, I just don't understand how you can, with any shred of dignity, stand before a congregation, present yourself as a man of God, and you don't take care of your children. That's
it's
just a basic
PIMP.
thing. Yes.
It's called pimping.
Yeah.
Baby, I'm pimping, you know.
Ooh,
I mean,
put that on.
You know what I'm saying? I know, right? I would set it up, but you know, tonight I'm a one-person crew.
Yeah.
Now, the next time you come, we're gonna have some beats and rocking in here. We're gonna really do it and everything. So, one last pop culture thing. Back in March 2019, there was an interaction with our Representative Cummings and Mark Meadows, where Rashida Tlaib was talking about how that Trump was a racist, right? Or at least in her belief, she believed his actions were racist. And then Mark Meadows carts this woman out, and I forget what her name, Lynn Patton, I think it is, carts her out, and I call it Exhibit B, my black friend. This is a standard thing that people go to. I think Elijah was very, very dignified, but in some respect, why do we always have to be the dignified person? That's the part. Maybe I'm just angry and I'm tired and I just don't want to take it no more. But I'm just saying, why do we always have to be dignified? And Mark Meadows is just looking up there like a deer in the headlights, talking about like, well, I'm not a racist and I've never been racist and I'm never going to be racist. First thing, if you're not something, you ain't doing nothing anyway.
Yeah.
So
every one of my coloreds will tell you I treat them very well, very, very well.
That's right.
There is not a problem here, not a problem at all. In fact, come out of here, gal. She types for me. Tell them how good I am to you. You know, that kind of stuff is just, it's embarrassing. But like this is the overwhelming kind of ethos of the Republican Party. This is what Trump has visited on them. This makes this okay. It would have been embarrassing even 5 years ago. But, you know, it's kind of come back into vogue now. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to wrap up your section, but you're going to come back. Trust me, you're going to come back at the end. We're going to do a round robin. But I'm going to bring Miss Delane up here. I'm going to give a little intro. First thing, let's give a hand for Mr. Mark Jason McLaurin. One thing for sure, Mark, no, keep it running. It's okay. I got enough time. So I'm going to give it a quick introduction. Delane Lewis, she is a real estate broker who decided that she was sick and tired of being sick and tired. Have you ever been that way? I know I have been that way. So she decided to help build a chapter of Together We Will in Harford County. Why Harford County? Because we need that help. And her first foray into it was organizing a road trip to D.C. for the Women's March in 2016 to protest who?
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. Donald Duck? Donald Trump, okay. And much of TWW's work has been around the education piece regarding racial incident in Bel Air High School, which is also in Harford County. And you do economic justice. And I'm not going to say all the things because I want you to be able to say all these things. You and TWW are the NAACP 2018 Community Activist Award recipient. Let's give her a hand. I mean, come on now. It takes a lot to be able to get that. So I'm here to introduce my good friend, Delane Lewis.
Thank you very
Welcome
much
to
for
Beats
having
and Politics Live. Boom.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here and certainly very honored to be part of your very first show.
I know. It's
congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, and this is the one-man show this time because of my crew, like I said, they all working. They all had to work today. And on a budget that we're on, they need to work. So first thing I want to say, just give us a little background about yourself and pretty much say anything you want to say. You know, I just want this to be a loose conversation. It's not too formal.
Well, definitely, I think TWW came about after the 2016 presidential election is really what happened. After about a week or two of depression, I said, I can't believe this is the country I'm living in right now.
Okay.
It definitely, peeled back the veil for me, and was the beginning, let's say, of peeling back the veil for me.
It's been a roller coaster.
I said, I got to do something. So I started, just a Facebook page. Initially, it fell under the Pantsuit Nation, which was kind of a storytelling site that was a supportive of Hillary. But eventually, we changed our name, and there's a national organization of Together We Will, and we just decided that we had to do something, and
Right.
especially in Harford County, which is very conservative, and in which we have a lot of the same issues that we're talking about nationally is happening there locally.
Sure.
And there was no voice for anyone who was more progressive. And who felt differently on some of these issues in the county. And so I feel like we've stepped into that void and are offering a different voice.
That's good. That's good. Discuss the incident that happened in Bel Air High School. I think it was in 2017.
Yeah.
So give some background to it and talk about some of the actions your group took, which, by the way, I am a part of. So I'm kind of making it sound like I'm separate, but I am a part of. But just give some ideas about what happened.
So it was a really terrible incident at Bel Air High School where they decided that they were going to play a Scrabble game. Which each one of the students got a letter, and I think the intent was for it to be like a social opportunity. It forces you to go talk to other people, interact with other people. Except, shockingly, high school students took it and did something else with it, and a group of them got together and spelled out the N-word. And of course, since they have to memorialize everything they do now, they took a picture.
Oh.
And that picture...
So Opeyville decided to say nigger.
Yeah.
I could say that, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to say that.
I know, and I understand why you're not. But so, my delegate. So, but, I mean, the thing about... so it was an innocent thing. It was actually... No.
So, it was
the game was supposed to be innocent, or no?
The game was supposed to be innocent,
okay.
But, so what happens is, look, these are, I'm not excusing them, their children, but what really made the incident worse is how the adults handled it.
Oh, wow.
So first of all, the school system gave a punishment that fell just shy of the number of days it would be required to notify the school board. Wow. So they're trying to sweep it under the table and not let anybody know anything that it even happened. Except, of course, once you've got a photograph.
Yes, on the internet.
So the school board found out about it only hours before they started getting calls from news stations because they knew that the word had gotten out, and so they had to tell them. So... that is, just shows that they were not taking it seriously.
Sure.
And the consequences were not appropriate to what happened.
Right.
And unfortunately, those were the only consequences that happened to those students.
Sure. And
we were outraged by the incident. We had a large group that gathered outside the next Board of Education meeting beforehand, protesting, and who went in and spoke. And there were a lot of people from the community also who came in.
I think it was like 30, wasn't there? 30 or 30, 40?
Yeah. And
which is unusual. Board of Ed meetings really usually get nobody, but so.
And we have, I don't know if I can say now 100%, but I think maybe we've missed one Board of Education meeting since that incident happened in 2017. Together We Will has been at every single board meeting, either speaking or being in attendance to follow what's happening and to just let the Board of Education knowing that we're paying attention to what they're doing and what they're not doing.
Were there any changes in their system? No.
Nothing meaningful.
Well, there was a prior superintendent. What's her name?
She retired.
I can't remember her name.
She retired.
What's her name?
Barbara Canavan.
Thank you, Canavan. You can say her name.
Yeah.
I just can't remember her name because she was just such a mean woman. She was like Cruella de Vil.
It was such willful denial. I go to all the schools. And I never hear there are any problems.
Right.
I mean, that's literally what she said to us. So,
Well, they ran a real closed operation within that whole system. To be honest with you, I've actually had people that have had interactions with them, and they would always pass them off to a secretary, and the secretary would say that they were the assistant superintendent. So they did a whole lot of that kind of game, and she improved it. She approved of it, and so now, thankfully, we have
we do have a new superintendent,
so
and we were very participatory in terms of providing feedback in who we wanted out of the potential candidates. And so, yeah, I mean, I think he's an improvement. You know, that's that kind of like, still have to wait and see. He did a listening tour, so there's no doubt in my mind that he heard the concerns from the community and from us on these issues. The school system has been had an intensive budget issue. They had to basically let go over 100 teachers in this past school year. Who actually
advocated for? Because there was a specific, wasn't there a specific person that was actually asking for that cut? Wasn't it Glassman?
Well, I mean, they presented a budget that required that number of teachers to be let
go.
The board, because they didn't have the funds. So then then they go to the county and say, we need money. And the county didn't
match it.
And really it's the county executive did not produce the money. But I see our role as, I mean, that is all important. You know, we need sufficient funds to provide a good education, but we cannot let them off the hook on these other issues just because they're dealing with this.
Sure.
You know, I mean, it's the job. They have to walk and chew gum at the same time. Sure. So they need to be managing their financial issues, but they also need to be dealing with these other problems that are happening in the school system.
Right. And they do have a severe problem with hiring black and brown people. Doctor, I can't remember his name. Sean, I'm sorry. Excuse me. I don't remember everybody who's up in Harford County. I live there. But I remember talking to him, and he was telling me that they were offering money for people to come, and they wouldn't come. And what I basically said to him, you didn't make the right offer. Everybody has a right offer, and I always feel like in Harford County, because I've been there for a long time, I always feel like they always do short of what they need to do, purposely.
Right.
It's very specific to fail.
Dr. Bulson, is that?
Yeah, and I'm not saying he himself is lying, but he might have people in the back pressuring him that, we're not too worried about that. And I just think that it's an opportunity, because I think a large part of the problem with Harford County with race is that there isn't these examples. There aren't these different examples that we really need.
Well, I mean, as a student in Harford County, you can go through your entire 12 years and never have a teacher of color.
I did.
I mean, that's outrageous.
I did.
I mean, that's outrageous.
And it made me desire to be around other. And then I went to a college that had a lot of black professors.
Right.
But believe it or not, I had also probably just about half and half. But it helped me. And I just think that in today's era, it's like 2019, but I always feel like we're in pre-Civil War South Carolina. I mean,
I do feel like that's another positive impact that TWW had, is that in that school year, they did designate as one of their priorities increasing hiring of teachers of color. So this is how bad it was.
Right.
Let's say the current student population of color is around 35-ish percent. They had less than 6%.
Wow.
Of their faculty was a teacher of color.
Wow.
So it did increase the next year, but these are the kind of things like we're paying attention to.
The constant pressure.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously you can't, it would be very difficult to completely turn that around in one year.
Sure.
They did make progress the next year. I believe it went up to about 9%. But so that's the question: are they maintaining it as a priority? Are they still making their efforts?
So you guys are like gatekeepers. You're keeping an eye, and so what we to make sure it gets further out in the media.
Absolutely.
So because I think that's the pressure that they need. Another question: what else has TW done? Because I remember there was a lot of protests for what's his name, Andy Harris.
Yes, Andy Harris is our part of our group, Andy Harris, is our congressman, and so he has consistently supported. I believe the statistic is something like, 98.7% he aligns with President Trump.
Okay.
So there's like zero separation between him and. So we have definitely made our presence known, especially on immigration issues. A lot of these other federal, the health care issue. When we first started, the Affordable Care Act was on the chopping block.
Right, it was.
And it was on the chopping block, and we held a really excellent town hall where we had a lot of the participants in the system come and talk to us and explain what the Affordable Care Act was, how it worked. And we, of course, invited Congressman Harris to come. He did not attend.
He did not.
He did not attend. But it was a great event. It was very well attended, and I think we informed a lot of people. And I think, it was groups like us doing work like that is part of the reason that they were not able to kill it. They wounded it, but they didn't kill it.
They didn't kill it, yeah. So is there any other thing that TWW plans on doing in the next 3 months of 2019, and what is the future of TWW?
Sure.
Really?
Well, definitely, like we did the healthcare town hall. We've held a lot of town halls or forums on specifically education. We've had 3 now on disrupting the school-to-prison pipeline. And I do anticipate having another one where we've focused on different aspects of it. Such a complex issue.
Right,
you really can't do it all in one session. So I do anticipate having at least one more town hall on that issue that we're in the planning process of. And so that is, it's really important. This was clearly... our organization feels very strongly, we have to understand the issues, so education is really important, but education is meaningless without action.
Absolutely.
So we are very action focused.
Absolutely.
And, and our constant struggle is there are so many things to rein it back in and try to have meaningful action on some other things. And I would say our other big success story is we were one of the primary sponsors of the first ever Upper Chesapeake Bay Pride Festival in Harford and Harford County.
10,000 people. And guess what? I was the MC DJ.
Yes, I know. Did an awesome job. Awesome job.
It was a great time.
It was really wonderful.
And I'm just going to put out here as an exclusive, I have access to all the top headliners. If we could secure a date in the next 2 weeks, I actually have the door in there to people like Big Frida and all the people that's gonna bring people. So it's just something.
We're waiting for the final thing, but we're gonna keep it the same weekend.
Like the 21st.
Yeah. So I want to say it right. So So I can't 100% say, but June 20th.
But we're looking at that date is what I'm saying, that weekend.
We're seeking the permit for. So
now, what made you guys, and I could just say as a part of the organizing committee, it was quick. It was like 2 months. And what made you guys all of a sudden just decide that you were going to do this? Because I never heard anything about it. Yeah.
Well, it's always the way, right? Somebody else is like, we need to do this.
Yeah.
And then...
just happened.
And then, then somebody else does.
Right. No, but it was awesome.
It was really awesome. And I will tell you the only reason that it really was 2.5 months.
Right,
it was. We had a phenomenal turnout, great response from vendors and nonprofits, and the focus was really just to provide a lot of support to the community. So
Absolutely.
Getting services and information there, and then and adding in other stuff as well.
And the drag queens.
Yeah, that was fun.
Almost got me in trouble.
Got great performances. It was really fun, but it only happened the way it did because people wanted it.
Yeah.
People came to us and approached us and wanted to participate in it. And, we didn't have to do too much asking. People were knocking on the door. Right. And that's, and which just tells you how needed and wanted it was in the community.
So maybe we're missing a little bit here, because on one end it feels like pre-Civil War South Carolina sometimes, but the fact that there's people that were asking for this, maybe it isn't as conservative as we think, because when I look at those rolls for voting, the numbers are not all that different. The only difference is that the Republicans are more dedicated to voting. Let's just be real. Yeah. And part of the reason why they are is because they're better at their campaigns, and they got money coming from different organizations. So my point is to go back to the pride. Maybe we should be a little more bolder in that area and not worry about repercussions, because I know that was a big worry with you and Yvonne. You guys thought, I told you guys there was going to be a lot of people that was going to come. You guys were the only ones that didn't believe it. Yeah. Because people like to go to prides because they are fun.
Oh, it was such a great feeling. I mean, really, the whole day, it was just such a feeling of joy and happiness.
Yes.
And people were crying tears of joy, and I think it is moments like that where people do realize how many of their friends and neighbors are part of the community, and I think that is one of the ways in which we, reduce the fear.
Got you.
That is associated with that.
And what's so funny? And a quick story. I happened to stop at 7-Eleven, and Cena went to get something, and this guy comes out, and he was like, "Hey, you were there yesterday. Were you the DJ?" And he was like, he came over and he talked to me. He said, "My daughter just came out." And he said, and "I'm going to be honest with you, for the last 2 years, I've been struggling with this." And he said, "I'm a Trump supporter." He said, "So I'm going to be honest." And I mean, I must be the Trump whisperer, because all these Trump supporters really like me. But in either case, he started talking to me and confessing about how he's treated his daughter, and that he finally came to the point that he just wanted to love. And he didn't want to have that hate anymore. So he came to the pride. He was worried. And he said, "Oh, my God, y'all don't do nothing that's nothing different." I said, "What do you think? We hang on chandeliers or something?" But that's the kind of stuff that will help. It might not help everybody, but it helped him. And he was like, "I'm coming next year, and I'm going to bring some of my friends." And I really believe his word, because I don't believe he was BSing me. And I think that we need to continue to do that.
But who I really hope it helped was his daughter, to not feel so alone. Yeah. Because, one of the groups that was there, we had a free mom hug group that was there.
I love them, man.
And really, it's so hard not to talk about that without crying. And so many people came up looking for the hugs. I mean, people my age or older who's like, my mom would never accept me, and can I get a hug? So it's, I think those moments are so special. So,
well, Delane, I tell you, it has been nice talking to you. Now, the next segment, which is going to be quick, because, that fire drill made it go way longer than it needed to, because I did really actually expect to be out by now. So it won't be too long. We just need one more chair, and then I'm going to play a little bit of music, and I'm going to announce our sponsors again, make it a little official, make it seem like it's official anyway. And then Jason can come back up. All right. Can't turn up my music right now. All right. One, we want to thank Hotel RL Baltimore, Inner Harbor. Want to buy black-owned business? Buy The Hipster, a custom-made vintage leather suede high-top sneaker created specifically for DJs who need comfortable yet fly shoe wear to rock. And just because you aren't a DJ doesn't mean you can't rock these either. The Hipster gets its color combination from the Pan-African American Liberation flag as a dedication by the designer to their rich heritage. You will completely love your shoes, and we will refund or replace custom shoes for free if you're not 100% satisfied. So get The Hipster. Look at it on Facebook. Hotel RL, an experience of all things authentic, creative, curious, and locally inspired. We invite you to work, play, and pursue your passions. So, we're back. Oh, you see, and he got up there real quick.
See?
Huh? Oh, I need to scoot in? Okay, that's no problem. I can do that. And I'm going to be editing a little bit of this. So, the last part I wanted to deal with was just a couple quick hits. And when I say quick hits, I wanted to talk about this Amber Geiger thing. And the reason why I want to talk about, I know Dylan's like, man, don't put me on the spot. But I'm sorry. Yeah, this is chord. Part of the reason why I want to bring it up, because it is the case to me is a dichotomy of America and how it treats one group of people versus another, how people receive one thing. Like you were saying earlier, Jason, you were talking about how our people, sometimes we go too far with this forgiveness thing. And so I got beat up. I got beat up on Facebook because I said that I don't have a problem that Little John, I call him Little John because I couldn't remember his name, Brant, forgave her. However, him begging to hug this person that killed his brother, who was just sitting there eating his ice cream in his chair, it kind of got up under my skin, and I'm going to tell you why it got up under my skin. It always seems like we're the ones who have to apologize for being beat up. And in 2019, I just can't take it anymore. So him doing that, and then the media honed in on him and his father. And they didn't talk about Mama Brant, because Mama Brant was talking some real stuff. She was talking some real stuff. So I wanted to first say, what are your thoughts about the case? I'm going to let you guys talk. I said my little thing. Hello.
I mean, it's a tragedy. It's an unbelievable tragedy. You couldn't make up a story like that if you tried. And I just have, I think it's terrible. I think her sentence was ridiculous. And clearly she was getting the benefit of being a police officer and a white woman. And, I don't know how to accomplish it, but this is where we see the inequities in sentencing happening over and over again. I don't know how to remove that, but to me, that's the
keep fighting. That's how you do it.
Right.
You keep fighting, because part of TWW is about racial justice, and even though you might not have made it to that step for everything, know that there's other steps you can go. Like you can just quickly, I'm sorry, not to get it too unfocused. They're doing an initiative up in our area about trying to go to the state with legislation so cops cannot talk to our kids on the street without a representative. My girlfriend actually saw one of the resource officers at school talking very roughly to a couple kids that were 12, and he basically threatened her that if she did not move, that he was going to take action on her. And all her point was, these kids are under 15. They're obviously under 15, and you're now towering over them with this gun. Let's just put it in perspective. This is intimidating. And so that's a way, in my opinion, where TWW can piggyback on some things.
So definitely some of the forums that we held were discussing the role of the school resource officer in the schools. I think it's very problematic. That's clearly part of that school to prison pipeline. And yes, this is not specifically an initiative of TWW, but we're very supportive of this group that's trying to put together some legislation that would prevent police officers from interrogating minors without a parent or guardian present. And I do know that they intend to bring that legislation to Annapolis this year, so we will be following that and supporting that.
Thank you. So what's your thoughts, Jason, on the Amber Geiger trial?
I don't know where to begin. I will say that, well, first, I think 10 years is ridiculous.
Absolutely.
Although, without intent, I think it's hard to, you gotta have a line between, as much as, I think she's a twit and everything else, I don't think she decided she was going to kill him. You know what I mean? So I struggle with, I don't think she was, in her car thinking, let me go one floor down and shoot this Negro. It's a horrible situation all around. But so, so I thought 10 years was but I was, I'm hardest on my own folks, and I recognize this, but I was viscerally uncomfortable with folks that were attacking the judge and attacking the younger brother for wanting to hug this woman, and
right.
Until I see my older brother get blown away, Like, I can't judge what his, like, if his healing process needed to include forgiveness and a hug for her, God bless him. That is not my judgment to, I don't think I'd be there,
No.
I don't think so, but that may be the space I found myself in. You know what I mean? So folks were really hard on them as if, like the younger guys, the younger brothers' embrace of her represented, softness or something. And I thought it represented the highest form of strength. You know what I mean? It's easy to say, B, I'll kick your A,
Right,
but,
yeah, that's true.
But it's harder to say, you know what? For me to be okay, and most importantly, his point was that's who his brother was. His brother would want you to get right with God, get your life together, and so so I am his messenger because he's gone. Get it together, lady. Here, I'm going to give you a hug. Get it together, lady. I'm channeling my older brother who you killed. Who am I to step in and say, oh, why he, I just thought that was so unnecessary.
Some people were real harsh. I wasn't really harsh.
I thought it was wholly inappropriate that the judge came down off the bench. I mean, just
yeah.
As a matter of professionalism.
Well,
and handed him a Bible, I thought we were.
I mean, was she impartial? And I think those were the things. There was other things that went on in that case, like the
bailiff was smoothing her hair out,
and I mean, just a whole. And I mean, the detective was talking about she didn't commit a crime, and he's the lead detective. I mean, it's just.
I'm sorry. I thought really the most outrageous thing is that apparently they allowed her to present the stand your ground defense.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, that to me was really troubling because that's setting like a legal precedent, and I'm like, what are you talking about? That was crazy to me.
And what you don't realize, people, her lawyers are currently in process of appealing this sentence.
And then the additional wrinkle is the witness that got killed,
Joshua Brown.
Yeah. So now the story is that 3 guys drove all the way from Louisiana to Texas, 6 or 7 hours to buy weed from him, and then decided to kill him. It's just like with this Sean Suiter stuff. I hate to say it. I've never been a conspiracy theorist. Like, I don't believe in Area 51 or whatever. But like some stuff, like when it gets to smelling too funky, and he was going to be a prime witness in the civil case that the family has against the police department. Like, I just don't,
it was weird.
It's too close. And plus, look, if I can't channel drug dealers very effectively, but what I will say is that I think if I'm a drug dealer, the last person I'm going to want to do a drug deal with is somebody that's been that high profile on the news in the last couple of days.
I think you're right.
It's just there's something that stinks about that to me, and maybe it's wrong, but I don't. The older I get, the less I believe in coincidences.
Yeah, I agree with you. So, do you guys have any closing shots?
Well, for me, I just want to
also
thank my two
not to cut you off,
co-hosts.
and also any events and stuff, and also shout out your website or whatever, so everybody know who you are. Okay, I'm sorry.
www.seiu500.org. That's the best union in the city, best union in the state, best union in the country. We just came off of our LA convention, kind of leadership summit. We had all the presidential candidates come and talk to us, so it was really great. So SEIU500.org if you want to get involved. If you're trying to get in touch with me on Twitter, it's Marky J, SEIU, MARKYJ, SEIU, and that's it. I just want to close by thanking both my co-host and you, Sarahia, for the opportunity to be here. This was incredible, amazing, and I hope you'll have me back.
Absolutely. Jason, I love you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm really excited for you. I think this is really interesting, what you're doing, and I'm looking forward to future sessions. And so we're together. We will, Harford County Upper Chesapeake, and you can find us on Facebook, and we have a website, together, Harford.com is probably the easiest way to find us. So.
That's great. That's great. So support, support, and support. Together We Will can use some donations. I'm not joking. I'm just saying it's called $1.
Yeah.
And so, you know.
C4.
She's a C4, so they could use some donations. And although the SEIU doesn't need donations unless you work for them, they could use some more workers. Because even though they're the fastest and the biggest, they could always use some more.
Yes, God.
You know. So I'm going to close with my little statement because, I don't know, I just wanted to do that. This weekend, I attended and participated in the Justice for Marlon Barnes rally and protest at Harford County Detention Center. There were about 20 to 25 of us there. We were supporting Miss Marilyn Barnes. She just wants justice, as we all do. How justice looks in all its many instances is different to each person. Most Marylanders want to trust their politicians and their police officers to do the job they're tasked to do, with transparency, professional actions, care, and accountability if they make an error. Receiving an autopsy report almost 4 months later doesn't really secure that trust. And if you don't explain to these people, we've never actually had any contact with this type of situation, it's going to unseat their trust. Refusing to answer questions straightforwardly. Once some tragedy where a guy goes into a jail and he has the possibility of getting out in the near future, and all of a sudden he hangs himself. It just, it doesn't secure the trust. We understand that many public workers and officers are overworked. However, in cases and tragedies like Marlon Barnes' case, no one should ever have to wonder. There never should be a mystery. Much like Sandra Bland's case, Marlon Barnes was young, vibrant. Regardless of his charge, he had a life that he was going to live. And he expressed his desire in the last hours of his life. We cried for the justice for Marlon Barnes because Marlon Barnes could be my son, because I do have a son. It could be yours or anybody who has a son. This past week, we also have the People of Texas versus Amber Geiger's case, where there were numerous oddities in that courtroom. There was a judge hugging and giving out Bibles to a convicted murderer. And I know I'm sounding like I got some vitriol, but, I would like to see that more in all cases. So that's why it was really strange for me to see. And then we have a prosecutor who is tasked to investigate this whole thing, talked about she didn't commit a crime. I mean, was he really impartial? These are just things we have to ask ourselves. In this entire grotesque charade of implicit bias and display of a lot of anti-black actions within that whole courtroom, people seem to forget one person, Botham Jean. See, the state was supposed to be the voice for Botham Jean, but I'm not sure I feel like they really were a great voice. And maybe I'm just being pessimistic, maybe I'm just being negative, but I just think that they did an awful disservice to the people of Texas. These people's actions in this courtroom were a major symbol of disrespect and a lack of empathy and compassion to this person who's so young. Everyone talked about what he would have done if he were there, but I say Botham Jean would have rather been there. I think he would have rather been alive. And I think he also would want justice, because at the crux of religion is justice. See, people like to distort the Bible, they like to play with the Bible, but at the crux of it is justice. Amber Geiger is not the victim. When Mama Jean slayed those Texas Rangers in a searing statement after the trial for their corruption, their lack of accountability, she did all these things for her son, Botham Jean. I feel like she was the only one who spoke for Botham Jean. Daddy was at it, he was doing his thing. And I agree with you on a certain level, Jason. We shouldn't question it. But it just seemed like they somehow missed Botham. I just always felt like it was just everybody else but him. Because his life was taken for no good reason. This is a tragedy in both of these cases, Marlon Barnes and Botham Jean's. Many others where we probably seem to forget the victim. Too many public officers care more about covering their backs than the victims. And in those self-serving actions, they breach and undergird the public trust in officers and the system. Marlon Barnes and Botham Jean were victims, and victims deserve respect, compassion, and empathy. Not because either were a saint, but because they had the right to live just as much as anybody else. Black lives are still being auctioned off and bargained in the American public sphere as if we're in a high-tech 1800 era. And then we wake up to realize it's 2019. See, that was just a dream, or I don't know. It's just hard. Sometimes it's very hard to really take it all in. They've been, I think about Biggie and Pac. It's 20 years later since they were talking about these things in their songs. So again, public officers and politicians, you want the society to be more united and less divided, but we need to have them actually be accountable and transparent. And that's going to require more people getting in and also them doing what we actually demand. There should not exist one prison without a CCTV like TV system. I don't care. We're in the GoPro era. It's just no cost for that. We talk about the lives you are tasked to protect because these officers, even though this person broke a law, these officers, these guards are tasked to protect and serve these people. And I think sometimes we forget that. We think about all the other things that are involved in it, but we need to start getting back into that. In the case of Jean, Geiger needed to be more professional. She needed to not shoot someone because she claimed she was scared. She could have just left the house. I mean, let's just be honest. It wasn't like she didn't have options. A regular citizen being fearful when they walk in the door and think that's their house is different than a professional. She's supposed to be a trained officer, and death is supposed to be the last choice when there's no other choice. And Geiger had many choices. So my last bit of word is this. Politicians, many of you do very little to garner the public trust because you play games with the law. Then you play the spin game with the law if you change it slightly or if you don't want to change it at all. But you wonder why so many people don't take you serious. I mean, some of you act like you're out of the 60s, used car salespeople. I mean, where no one believes anything you say, and you have the money, I guess, to get in these seats, but this has to stop. You have to do a better job. One last thing. So in sum, let's celebrate the memories of Botham Jean, Marlon Barnes, Joshua Brown, who was the key witness, Sandra Bland, and many other victims in America. We in the activist community will continue to fight for justice in their names and lift you up in respect, because that is what a victim deserves. Respect, compassion, empathy, for paying the ultimate price for just being. Thank you guys for coming out to Beats and Politics Live edition. This was the premiere. We had Mr. Jason, McLaurin, yes, and Mr. Lane Lewis. Next month we're gonna have a round table again, and we're gonna have some interesting people, because actually we're gonna get somebody from the Green Party. She's gonna like that. He's a presidential candidate, so that's gonna be interesting. We're gonna have also a music spotlight. We're gonna actually have a performance. And we're going to have another activist in the area. Tonight I was a one-woman crew, and I did my best. And I enjoyed it because I learned so much from both of you, because even though I don't know everything about you, y'all both my friends, but I learned so much. And the fact is I want other people to learn with you guys. You guys are like an encyclopedia of life to me. Okay? But anyway, we're out of here. My name's Sarahia Benn. Peace and blessings, and we're out.